We're in the middle of the halachot of Basar BeHalav, and we are on Siman Pei Zayin in Yoreh De'ah, halacha Gimel, the third halacha, Sif Gimel, and there the Shulchan Aruch writes, for those that are following inside, he writes the following. He says, Katuv Eno noheg ela bebasar behema tehora, bechalav behema tehora. The laws of basar bechalav only apply to the meat of a kosher animal, calls it a pure animal, with the milk of a behema tehora, the milk of a kosher animal. Aval basar tehora bechalav temea, a mixture of kosher meat with milk from a non-kosher animal, or basar temea bechalav tehora, or non-kosher meat, a mixture of non-kosher meat with kosher, milk from a kosher animal, mutarim bebishul ubahana'a, is allowed to cook with and to have benefit with. Notice how it doesn't say eating. You're allowed to cook it, you're allowed to have benefit. Ubasar chaya va'of, and the meat of a chaya, a undomesticated animal, such as a deer, is considered a chaya, and an of is fowl, but we're just going to call it chicken. Afilu bechalav tehora mutar bebishul uvana'a. Even with kosher milk, you are allowed to cook it and you are allowed to have benefit. Ve'af ba'achila eno asur ela midrabanan, and eating it is only prohibited from the Rabbanan. It's a rabbinical law. Aval dagim v'chagavim en bahem isur afilu midrabanan. But fish and locusts that are cooked with milk are not even asur midrabanan. Rama writes, Haga v'na'agu la'asot chalav mishekedim umanichim ba basar of ho'il ve'eno rak midrabanan. The custom is to allow chicken to be placed in almond milk, because that mixture of milk and chicken is only midrabanan. So therefore it's allowed. You're not worried about marit ayin. Aval basar behema, but if you wanted to do something similar with meat, and you wanted to cook it in almond milk, which is again not really milk, Rama writes, Yesh la'aniach etzel hachalav shekedim mishum marit ayin, that a person should place the almonds next to the milk because of a marit ayin, because of what people will see, and therefore, since it's a deoraita, we were more worried about marit ayin, so therefore you should put the almonds there so that people know that this was cooked with almond milk. We're going to talk about this Rama next class, Be'ezrat Hashem. So this is the law, the seif that we're learning today. The concept of basar chalav midrabanan, rabbinical mixtures, where chicken and milk is cooked together. This halacha actually stems from a Mishnah in Chulin, Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, where there it says that basar behema tehora, which is kosher meat that was combined with kosher milk, it's asur to cook together, and it's also asur b'hana'a, and it's asur to have any benefit. But a kosher animal and a non-kosher milk, or a non-kosher animal and a kosher milk, are mutar to cook together and are mutar b'hana'a. There we have what seems to be a machloket between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili, and it's important to know this machloket. Rabbi Akiva holds that the basar chaya, the deer, which we said is and the fowl and the chicken, okay, it is not asur to cook together midoraita, because it says do not cook lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. So therefore, cooking chicken and basar chaya together is not an issue. And then Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, from the pasuk lo tochal kol nevela, do not eat any nevela, the Talmud teaches us that when it says chalav imo, b'chalev imo, the milk of its mother, this excludes chicken. Because chicken doesn't give any milk. It excludes off. So this is what Rabbi Yossi Aglili says. So there's two possible arguments between these two Tanaim, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi. It seems to be that one, we could say Rabbi Akiva holds that a deer, basar chaya, and milk are asur midrabanan, are rabbinically prohibited, because the Torah is only talking about behema, tevashel gedi. Gedi is a type of behema. And Rabbi Yossi Aglili holds that the basar chaya and the milk are asur midoraita, because even though it's a chaya, the chaya still gives milk. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, it all depends on whether you give milk. So he would hold that the basar chaya with milk is a deoraita, and Rabbi Akiva holds it's a derabanan, because a chaya is not a behema. Or we can say that Rabbi Akiva holds that the chicken and the milk are asur midrabanan, and Rabbi Yossi Aglili holds that it's mutar even drabanan. In fact, the Gemara over there in Chulin brings a story that Levi, one of the great Chachamim, came to a house of a man named Yosef the bird trapper, and he was served the head of a peacock cooked in milk. Okay, so I don't know, you wouldn't see this at your modern day wedding, but a head of a peacock cooked in milk. And Levi didn't say anything. So when Levi came to the house of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and told him the story, right? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi asked Levi, he says, why didn't you put in cherem this guy, this Yosef? How can he serve you such a thing? The head of a peacock is a bird. How can he serve you such a food, a combination? It's asumi d'Rabbanan. So what did Levi answer? Levi said that this guy Yosef lived in the city of Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, it could be that he expounded that machloket in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, like Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who holds that it's mutar to eat chicken cooked in milk, and even midrabanan it's not a problem. So that's how Rabbi Yossi Aglili. I always use this example for people to show how far halacha has come. That even one of our great Taninim of Rabbi Yossi Aglili used to eat chicken and milk. Now, we know that almost all the Rishonim, including the Tur, are posek like Rabbi Akiva. And that chicken and milk are asur midrabanan. And that's why we don't have Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? because of chicken and for other reasons. All right? But that's their secret. All the good fried chicken recipes are cooked in milk. An interesting question is asked over here. The Torah says that the meat of a kosher animal and the milk of a temeah animal, of a non-kosher animal, or vice versa, is only midrabanan and mutar bebishul uvana'a. So the Bet Yosef asks, why did the Torah even mention the concept of cooking tameh meat and milk in the same sentence with cooking chicken with milk? Because when you mention chaya and chicken, if you mention the idea, again, the law of cooking a undomesticated animal and chicken with, right, there's an isur midrabanan, a basar BeHalav, to eat them with milk. But by a tameh animal, there is no isur basar BeHalav, even midrabanan, because it's already asur midoraita. You already have a prohibition from the Torah not to eat this tiger. I'm not allowed to eat a tiger. It's against the Torah to eat a tiger. So why are you telling me? Why are you even giving me this law of telling me that you could cook with drabanan? Why are you even mentioning this? This is the she'ela of the Bet Yosef. So the Bach is also one of the commentaries in the Arba Turim. He says that cooking a basar temeah with chalav tahor, which is a non-kosher meat with kosher milk, or the opposite, besides for the original isur of being non-kosher, and then you're not allowed to eat tiger meat, all right, you get an additional isur. You get an additional isur of basar BeHalav. And so why do I care if there's an additional isur? Why do I care? Just it's enough that I have that I'm not allowed to eat it. It actually has practical application to what happens to that piece of meat, that mixture of basar BeHalav. According to what we're saying now, if there's an isur basar BeHalav, that combination becomes nevela. In the lashon of basar BeHalav, it's called chaticha naasa nevela, which is, in short, is called hanan. And therefore, what happens as a result is that entire piece, that entire mixture, needs to be nullified if it fell into a second pot of par food. So just to make things simple, you may know about the concept of 60. We spoke about it last week. That if a little bit of milk falls into meat, all right, if there's 60 times the amount of meat than the milk, then the pot is kasher. You don't have to throw the pot out, all right. But if a piece of meat absorbed basar BeHalav, this piece now, okay, is a mixture of basar BeHalav, the whole piece now becomes a nevela. And if that piece was to fall into a second pot, a parv pot, let's say, I need 60 times, not the milk that was absorbed in that meat, I need 60 times the entire piece. That's called chaticha nasa nevela. We're going to learn about it later, Bezrat Hashem. Hopefully we'll get there. All right? So therefore, that would be the difference. So there's an additional isur basar BeHalav when you have a mixture of tiger meat and cow's milk. So if that chaticha, if that piece was to fall into another pot, then you need 60 times that. So now you have a difference in opinion between the Taz and the Shach. The Tach says that according to the Shulchan Aruch, you need 60 only against the tameh milk, not including the meat. He holds you only need that's what the Shulchan Aruch is posek like, and that's because we don't use the concept of chaticha nasa nevela when the milk and meat were asur beforehand. So Shulchan Aruch holds differently than the Bach that we said before. The Shach says no, that if either the milk or the meat were asur beforehand, if there's one of the two were kasher beforehand, then we do use the concept of chaticha nase nevela. But the reason we don't use it in this case is because we're not worried that people are going to go and eat non-kosher meat such as a tiger, okay, mixed with milk, because it's asur anyways. So that's why we don't employ it over here. So again, according to the machloket between the Taz and the Shach, but what we're saying now would be in the case of when you have a nevela, this piece that has a combination of basar BeHalav was cooked with milk. According to the Taz, since a nevela is asur, okay, so therefore there is no chaticha nase nevela. And according to the Shach, we would say this chaticha nase nevela because the animal is already asur without having to make an additional gzera. Where this comes into play a lot is in the status of different types of meat. For example, buffalo, not the city, buffalo the meat. Buffalo the meat is actually kasher. It's a kosher meat. It's got split hooves. It chews its cud. Now midoraita, these laws only apply to a behemah. That's what the Shulchan Aruch said in the beginning of this seif. It only applies with behemah. Now, what is the status of a buffalo? So, according to the Mechaber, a buffalo is actually considered a behemah. He considers it a behemah in a different place. But the Rama holds that a buffalo is a safek behemah, safek chaya. We're not sure. We're not sure it's a domesticated animal, undomesticated animal. So therefore, to cook it with milk, he says it's asur because we're dealing with a deoraita. Basar BeHalav is a isur deoraita, and therefore, whenever we're besafek, we are always machmir when it comes to a deoraita. When a doubt in a biblical matter, we're always mahmir, and therefore we would hold that it's asur. All right. Let's just see. One of the questions that is brought up over here is with regards to pet foods. Pet foods. Let's say you go own a dog or you own a cat. A lot of these pet foods have a mixture of milk and meat, non-kosher meat, milk and non-kosher meat. So now, how do we look at this? Can I serve? On one hand, is there? I'm having benefit if I give this food to my dog because the dog's owned by me, and therefore there's a certain hana'ah involved. So can I give this mixture of non-kosher meat and milk to my dog? So there is a perush on Shulchan Aruch called the Dagul Merevava. That is the name of the perush. And he quotes the Rambam. And the Rambam says that whenever there's an isur of achila, of eating something, then it will also be, by automatic extension, there will be an isur hana'ah. There will be isur of having benefit. If there's no isur achila, then there's no isur hana'ah. But he says in a case of extensive loss, like I have said merubeh, or a loss of money, for example, a person can rely on this Rambam. Now, so therefore, by the pet foods, if these pet foods contain a mixture of meat and non-kosher meat and milk, according to the Dagul Merevava, you would be allowed to use this if there's a significant loss of money involved, because there's no isur hana'ah, because there's no isur achila, right? A person because the idea is that en isur chal al isur, that which means one prohibition cannot be piled up on another prohibition. So we already have a prohibition that this piece of meat is asur because it's not kosher. So that's already one isur. En isur chal al isur means this next prohibition, another isur, which is a combination of now meat cooked with milk, can't be placed on this item. So the reason why I can't eat this dog food, not because I want to eat dog food, but the reason why I can't eat this dog food is not because of the basar chalav isur. The reason why I can't eat this dog food is because it has non-kosher meat, assuming it was edible. It has non-kosher meat. So the concept of en chilul al isur teaches me that actually the just by looking at basar bechalav, there's no isur of achila. So if there's no isur of achila, there's no isur of hana'ah. And if there's no isur of hana'ah, it's okay in a case of hefsed merubeh, in a case if there's a significant loss of money. There are those that argue with the Dagul Merevava, the Pri Megadim, the Khatam Sofer, for example. They say that this is still subject to to an isur hana'ah of prohibition against benefiting basar bechalav, and therefore you wouldn't be allowed to give this dog food that has a mixture of non-kosher meat and kosher milk. Now, again, if it was kosher meat and kosher milk, vada, you're not allowed to, right? You're not allowed to have any hana'ah on that. That's what we learned. So if someone wants to put out this advertised dog food and it says kosher, but it's got milk in there, all right. So that would be worse, believe it or not, than giving it non-kosher meat with kosher milk. Right? So if you ask that question to an average person, you say, which one do you think is worse? They would probably tell you it's worse to serve your dog non-kosher meat. No, lefech. It's probably better to serve your dog non-kosher meat, right? And if it contains milk, based on the Dagul Merevava that we said. So someone wrote over here, if non-kosher meat is asur to eat, it should be asur to get benefit as well too. We're going to talk about that later, but here we're just focusing on the combination. Then, of course, we have the last thing we'll talk about today is this idea of milk and fish. All right, this is the big question of cream cheese and lox. And what does the Mechaber say? The Mechaber writes, Maran writes that fish and locusts that are cooked with milk are not even asur mi derabanan. So, in Orach Chaim, in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, in the laws of Seudah, Netilat Yadayim Seudah, he writes that between meat and fish, there's an obligation to wash one's hands because the combination of meat and fish brings a disease, a sakana, and we are strict when it comes to a sakana, more strict than a isur, than a prohibited food. What does the Shulchan Aruch mean by more strict than an isur? Simply that food that has a sakana, that is dangerous, that is poisonous, is not batel b'shishim, cannot be nullified. Meaning, I can't even have a tiny speck of fish if I'm eating together with meat. Masha'en ken, like I said, any other isur, as long as it could be nullified by 60. But this cannot be nullified. So now the Mishnah Berurah over there writes that although the custom is not to wash one's hands, we call this washing mayim emsaim, although the custom is not to wash one's hands, but a person should either eat bread or rinse his mouth, have a drink, and that's something that we tell people to do. So on Friday night, your mother serves you the fish. After you finish the fish, have a drink, eat some bread, and that is considered your separation before, let's say, the main course of meat comes. So what do we see from here? That there's a danger between of eating fish and meat together. The Shach here in our Siman says that, and he quotes a Bet Yosef, that says that even eating fish and milk is a sakana. This is a famous Shach who quotes a Bet Yosef. Fish and milk is a sakana. But both the Shach and the Taz immediately say that this is ta'ut sofer. It's a mistake in the text. And they permit eating fish and milk that were cooked together. The Pitrei Teshuvah also brings a Pri Megadim who holds that there is a sakana to cook fish and milk together, but not fish and cheese, and not fish and butter. He finally says the custom of the Jewish world, is to eat fish and milk that were cooked together, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will protect his people, because this is the custom. Halacha l'maaseh, what can I say? Cream cheese and lox, first of all, there's definitely room to be lenient, because cream cheese and lox are two foods that are not cooked together. They're two separate. You're eating it, you're just putting it together, and you're eating it, and there's more room to be lenient. To cook fish and milk together, some Sfaradim are actually more mahmir because of the Kaf HaChaim. The Kaf HaChaim writes on this siman that it is not allowed, and he only permits cooking fish with butter. Butter is allowed. And Yakut Yosef actually also quotes this Kaf HaChaim and brings it down and codifies his halacha. So it's always best to refrain from cooking fish and milk, actual milk. Butter is fine. But when you're eating two things that were not cooked together, there's more reason to be mekil in that situation. And the rest of the siman, the Ramah, which is a little bit longer, more complicated, we'll touch upon next shiur. An interesting question that comes up as a result of what we learned today is, let's say a guy is looking for a summer job, and he sees an ad to work at McDonald's or to work at Burger King. So can a person work at McDonald's? Can he work there? But forget them. Let's say there's no maritime. He's wearing a baseball cap, sunglasses. Okay, no one recognizes him. He's in a hick town in cottage country. No one will find him. Can he work at McDonald's? So the answer is no. The answer is simply you're not allowed to, because the meat that you're cooking from is from a cow, and it's tahor behema. It's a behema tehora. It's a kosher animal, although it's not shechted properly, but it's still a kosher animal. And therefore, even though it's asur to eat because it wasn't shechted properly, it's asur to cook with milk deoraita. right? It's a deoraita to actually make the burger. All right, so to go and make the burger and put together things that constitute cooking. When you put a cheese on a hot burger, you're melting that cheese. There's mamash cooking over there in this situation. So that's an interesting question that a lot of people ask, but the answer would be no. You can't work there because of that. If it was a derabanan, right? So let's say it was just Kentucky Fried Chicken, all right. Then there may be more room to be lenient based on that. But for sure, when you're dealing with deoraita, then you can't. But don't go working at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'll find you another job. All right. Amazing. All right. So we will end the shiur here, and Bezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week. Chazak u'baruch to everyone for coming. Have a great night, everyone.